This is Recruiting Unfiltered. He's a Division I player.
Committed for suicide, basically.
We're going to cover the full gamut. Now, roster limits actually become a detriment.
High school athletes need to really open their eyes.
We are here to talk everything recruiting. Recruiting Unfiltered. All right, guys, welcome into Recruiting Unfiltered. I'm Sean Salisbury, the National Football Director for NSR, joined by my guy as he is most every week, Larry Perrin, he's the Executive Director of NSR, and we're fortunate to be joined by somebody who's a lot smarter than we are. Sam Shomo is a former college volleyball player, a longtime coach, spent 12 years of experience with the NCAA volleyball head coach. He was the first head coach at Anna Maria, or was the head coach, I said, Anna Maria College in Paxton, Massachusetts for 5 years, and remains the winningest coach in program history. She's also NSR's National Volleyball Director. She joins us now. Sam, it's an honor to have you on. I know Larry and I are excited for this, as are the people that we're looking forward to this interview, and they're going to love the podcast. First, let me ask you, to go from coaching to recruiting, biggest change for you?
So it called on a lot of my skills, but before I jump right into my answer, thanks for having me. There's nothing I love more than talking volleyball and recruiting and helping our athletes and families. As you guys know, there's just so much information. It's so dense. So I'm happy to be getting it out there.
Well, you're really good at it too, Sam. It's a good example for the rest of us. You're really good at it. And I guess being the fact that you have coached it on the recruiting that side, and now as a National Volleyball Director, you kind of get it from both ends, which is a great advantage. But back to that, what was the difference or the biggest change for you, and why?
So the part of evaluating athletes, right, on their skills and academics, that was similar. Those skill sets I practiced for years and years are applied directly every single day to being a scout. But now with NSR, I actually see it on a bigger scale, right? So before, I was really only evaluating the type of athlete that fit my college and my team and, my school's academics. But now I'm evaluating all types of athletes for all types of programs. So it was really interesting over the past couple years, and I still feel like I learn every day, as I'm sure you guys do too, just seeing the bigness of the sport all across the country.
Absolutely.
Larry, have at it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask Sam, and I kind of want to address the elephant in the room with all sports right now. Sam, do you see the transfer portal and some of those things that are going on in the portal affecting volleyball like it does in football and basketball and baseball? And is it doing what it's doing to the high school athlete in those sports? Is it affecting the high school athlete as well?
Sure. We turn on ESPN and feels like every 2 minutes they're saying the word transfer portal for basketball and football predominantly. But it is also affecting volleyball on a huge scale, right? We just don't see it on the TV, right? It's not as prominent on TV, but that doesn't mean it's not there. It is huge at the Division I level. All the top programs are going into that transfer portal first and taking top college athletes out of the transfer portal rather than going to get a high school player. So we're seeing it affect volleyball too, the same way we see it affect other sports. And, it all trickles down. So it's not just affecting the top level, it's affecting everybody.
Sam, did you ever, as a coach, you see it, I think about Nick Saban and how the recruiting part almost pushed him to the broadcast because of the portal and the NIL and the lack of regulation for it. And I know pre this, but it's taken such a slippery slope so fast, all of it, college sports. Was there ever a time when you got disenfranchised with recruiting as a coach, and now that you're the National Volleyball Director, almost felt like you could come in and help fix that in a way, even though it's so big, but there's got to be that feeling of these kids weren't getting it right, or were they? So were you disenfranchised at all when you make the transition?
Right. So I was actually thinking about this yesterday. So some background, I was a head coach when the transfer rules changed and the transfer portal developed. Like, I remember sitting in a staff meeting and hearing about this thing called the transfer portal. And I was like, oh yeah, this is wonderful. Right? As a coach, I was like, you're telling me I can just go online and see all these other college players that might come to my school and contact them. And it was really, really exciting when it came out, right? When it first came out. But now, as the years passed, as we've seen, it's gotten bigger and bigger, and almost every athlete, maybe not everyone, maybe that's an unfair generalization, but, a lot of kids go into a college program being like, okay, if I don't like it, I'll just transfer.
Right.
Instead of, if I don't like it, I'm going to find solutions and stay. So as the years went by, right in the tail end of my coaching career, it was like, I have to keep my athletes really happy instead of trying to help them with that conflict resolution, right? If they weren't getting a lot of playing time, like, okay, like how do I get more in helping them with that part? Instead, they're just like, all right, I'm out. If I don't play, I'm out. I'm going to go find somewhere else to play. So it was really frustrating. Not sure if that's exactly what you're asking, but that's how I was feeling on the coaching side.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, you loved it at first, then the frustration hit you. I 100% get it. I'm with you. Larry, go ahead.
Well, it takes me back to roster management. Roster management used to be, you did exit interviews after the season was over, exit interviews before they went home for at the semester end. Now you've got to manage that roster, and you've got to know where every kid's mind is 365. And to keep your current roster intact, if you can do that, and that's all levels too, right, Sam? It's not just D1; it's D2, D3.
Yes. Yeah, you recruit them to come to your program, but then you almost have to keep recruiting them and keep recruiting their parents so they stay there for 3 more years.
I'm curious about that. Is it an advantage? I mean, I understand relationships with players are important. They are. And it used to be you'd recruit them, like Larry said. And when I was getting recruited, I mean, unless the coach left or I got hurt and was never going to get a chance to compete, transfer never entered my family's talk. It was battle for that job. Spring practice comes around every day, run scout team, and then get the gig. So I'm from this vantage point, how do you, when we're talking about managing, how do you manage a roster? Do you recruit a kid and you love them? Are you recruiting now? Are you looking into that part of their character? Meaning, and it's not a bad character flaw, or it could be good for some, but are you looking into it saying, after talking to the parents and the kid, I feel good that this kid's going to stick around and compete, or man, is going to bowl at the first sides, they're getting chewed out on a court because they didn't do right or late to class. I mean, how do you manage it? We know what goes on, but how and the why and keeping, and it feels to me like as a coach, that if somebody doesn't want to be there, why am I going to bend over backwards to keep them there? I think we go through that a lot too, and I've heard that a lot in my travels with coaches.
Very true. I always tried to, and I'm sure many coaches, if not all, when I was recruiting a family and an athlete, really try to make offers to the athletes that were most excited, right? So that perfect level where I really wanted them and they really wanted us, right? They were coming to campus multiple times, really engaging, loved their campus visit, and were just buying into the entire school as a whole. Like that's somewhere they wanted to live and learn and then play volleyball as well. So we're trying to weed that out at the beginning and not, weed out the people that are coming at it from a business approach, right? How much money are you going to give me? What's my scholarship like? What's my playing time like? And trying to weed those recruits out early. So you'd be left with the ones that were like, oh, coach, like, I love it here. The dorms are nice. The people are nice. Like, look at those flowers. Trying to read between the lines.
I don't think I ever looked at flowers when I was being recruited, but yes, I did really enjoy going somewhere where they wanted me, and that has to be there. I tell kids all the time, when you're looking for your fit, your college fit, it has to check boxes for you. It has to check your athletic box. It has to check your academic box, your social box, and in many cases now it's a spiritual box as well. So there's several boxes that are being checked by these schools for these kids. I just wish that we would see more kids going to college for to use their sport as the tool that gets them to their education. That's my biggest gripe with this transfer portal and all this other stuff is, are we creating an atmosphere where these kids are going to be rewarded at the end of their career with that college degree because they fulfilled their academic requirements, and holding these kids accountable to this is another thing that Sean talks about. You get chewed out on the court, you're late to a class, you flunk a class, or you have a low grade. Are you keeping your money, or are you just going to up and leave and say, these people don't like me here? And I just wish there was still a mechanism to maintain accountability for these athletes at all levels, to keep them tracking to get their education.
Right. And I saw it a lot as a coach, and even now, I played in college as a while ago now, but as an alum, like it goes past just that graduation, Larry, like, right. We want to track to get you an education and a degree, but past that, like as an alum, I love to help the graduating volleyball players from my program get connected in the career world.
Right.
Like I love to be a reference. I love to connect them. And I think if you're transferring and bouncing programs, you're going to miss out on that next step career connection too, right? I'm sure you guys network with other coaches and players,
all the time. And didn't I see a statistic where 40% of college athletes are hired before people that weren't athletes? Did I not see that? I thought that I did that, and I'll find it and stuff, because I through all the studies and stuff, and I might have been even our guy Robert, who was talking about that to me at one point in time. Regardless, you're exactly right to immerse yourself into every part of the program. That's Sam Shomo. Parents and kids, please pay attention. He's a longtime coach in college volleyball, was a college volleyball player, is the national volleyball director for NSR, and is really, really good at understanding everything about it. And kids listen and parents listen to her. That's Larry Parent. He's our executive director at NSR, and I'm Sean Salisbury, your national football director at NSR, and this is Recruiting Unfiltered. All right, Sam, I got a 15-year-old. I don't, but let's just say.
Okay.
And she's going to be she's a freshman, going to be a sophomore, and she's a volleyball player. And we're working on, vertical, all the things that go with getting yourself ready to be an outside hitter, as I believe you were as well in volleyball. What is, when you walk in, the first thing as a coach, when you walk into that gym or when you look at that tape, give me the first three traits you're looking for to find out about the physical trait, like on the court traits, not academics. Then you can transform to that too. On the court stuff, the first things you're looking for that kid sticks out.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to split them up if that's okay. We're going to tape and then in person, right? Because those of you that know volleyball know this, but for our non-volleyball families or listeners, travel volleyball, club volleyball is played in massive convention centers with 80 plus courts running at the same time. So the college coach is not going to come to your court without first evaluating your film. Otherwise, they'd be bouncing around courts like crazy and getting nothing done. So we've got to see your film first. So what we're looking for on film, number one thing, and this was my style, every coach may vary a little bit. I love athletic players. Fast, strong, explosive in all directions. Volleyball is not just a forward sport. You got to be athletic laterally and forward back. So that athleticism. Number two, your overall volleyball technique. And then also your size. It is really important in the game of volleyball. So those three big things on film. If I like all those three, we'll then go to your court in person. And again, be checking for those three to make sure they match up with what you showed us on film. But the big ones in person is volleyball is a game of errors. So number one, how do you act after an error and how do you correct your errors so you don't make a ton of them in a row? Number two, how are you interacting with your teammates? How are you communicating with them? And then, of course, number three, just more of that skill work, making sure your highlight reels weren't just 4 best plays for the entire year, but that you can actually bring those skills to the game consistently.
Do you look at, prior to in your pre-tournament study, Do you look at the measurements and metrics of that athlete if they're available and they're verifiable, such as approach touch and all that sort of stuff?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay. I encounter a lot of players that don't know their approach touch, and that is a huge mistake, right? Us college coaches, we don't necessarily care how tall you are. We want to see how high up you're playing the game, right? Because we're going to come across some 5'6" people that jump sky high, right? But you're also going to come across 6'2" players that maybe get that far off the ground. Right. So height isn't the whole picture. So college coaches are really, really looking for approach touch. And Larry, I'm glad you said it, a verified approach touch, right? If you're trying to measure like against your garage wall, it's not always accurate. And us coaches can tell, we can eyeball your approach touch within a couple inches. So if you're lying about it, or if your measurement is inaccurate, that's not a good look.
You mentioned being a great teammate and dealing with that when you see them in person. How much does that weigh, the interaction when you're watching in person? You get somebody says you've seen them on tape, you're going to scout them at a big, and you've got your eyes and they're sticking out, explosive talent, all that. Or maybe a better way to say it is, we see it all the time in the NFL and basketball that if the talent's bigger than the headache, people will deal with the headache. So, the talent always seems to win out. You got to have talent, no doubt. But would you take a 7 talent with a 10 attitude or a 6 attitude with a 10 talent? What's first? So these kids know when they're saying, okay, having a bad day, but how do you judge that?
For me personally as a coach, we're going to go for good attitude first, right? If your skills, your athleticism is a little bit lower, we can teach that, but it's going to be really hard for me to change your attitude. So if you've got a good attitude and your skills are pretty solid, obviously I'm not taking a skill level of a 2 just because their attitude's a 10. It is college volleyball. But I, as a coach, I would not take a bad attitude because of the talent. There's so many volleyball players out there. I can find somebody with the same talent with a better attitude, because this player is going to spend all of a significant amount of time with me and my staff and my existing team for 4 years, right? I was not signing on for a 4-year headache with bad player attitude or even parent attitude.
Right. Which has become, Larry, a big part of recruiting now. I mean, we've always heard recruit the parents too, but you also may de-recruit the kid if the parents are too big of a headache. I would imagine it happens too if you're a college coach.
Absolutely. And what parents don't understand is our scouts are watching their behavior in the stands while they're the athletes competing, and that's in all sports. And we don't want to pass that headache on to a college relationship that we've developed over the years. And because if we send them something that's going to be a bad outcome for them, they're never going to trust our opinion again. So we have to make sure that everything that the coaches are getting are verifiable facts and metrics on the athlete. The athlete has got the skill set that translates to that level that they're playing at, and that the parents are supportive and 100% behind the athlete and helping them succeed.
Hey, Sam, I do have a question about the transformation from you as a coach who's coached all conference players and seen the top of the game, were a hell of a player yourself, and then to transform into this. Now, I would imagine an advantage is you know how to recruit and know what you're looking for now as the national volleyball director at NSR. Just on is there an even crossover? I mean, when you cross over, is it the same? Or what's been the most difficult transition for you from coaching it to now going out and recruiting kids to help them get to the place that you were letting them in when you get 3 or 4 scholarships or whatever a year to bring those kids in? What's been the biggest transition to this job?
The first most positive transition is I get to help a lot more athletes, right? Like I would maybe have 2 to 3 roster spots a year. That was all I could sign on. But now, right, I'm able to help more athletes follow their dreams. So that is a really fun, really positive change. But just that other big change is learning about recruiting to colleges that were not just my own, right? So each college coach is very, very knowledgeable about their college and their program and what they're looking for, right? Like obviously the coaches at the Ivy League, they know how to recruit Ivy League, but maybe not your Division II or your NAIA. They might not know about recruiting there. So big challenge was learning as much as I could over the first year and beyond. I mean, recruiting changes what feels like daily. So we're all always learning. But that big change was seeing it on a larger scale and learning what a Division I prospect really looks like, a Division II, a Division III. I already had some basic knowledge from just being around the game for 20 plus years, but getting more into SAT scores, academics, those metrics Larry was talking about. So learning that on a bigger scale was a really big change.
Sam, have you seen the box? Have you seen the box change a little bit? Or well, here's what I'm really wanting to ask, and I'm gonna go back to the transfer portal again. Because there's less jobs available at the Division I, the Power Four level, the mid majors, that sort of thing. Because these are being filled by high school transfer portal athletes, should these athletes at the high school level should they even if they have a Division I skill set and measurements and metrics, should they be more open minded to the Division II level, the Division III level? Or should they still chase that D1 dream or bust?
Larry, I think that D1 dream or bust, no matter who you are, no matter what your skill set, what your metrics is, having that narrow-minded mentality is a giant mistake for anybody, right? Because if you're narrow and only looking in this avenue of schools, you could miss an absolutely perfect opportunity, right? Checks all your boxes. Mm-hmm. Coach wants you. You want to go there. Nice academic or athletic scholarships. You could miss that totally by staying in this narrow-minded area. So transfer portal aside, the game evolving aside, anybody that's narrow-minded, I think, is doing themselves a huge disservice. But the game is definitely changing. Volleyball, and I would venture almost all sports at the college level, are just more and more physical, mm-hmm. right? So even the Division III level is still not equivalent to high school ball. It is still college ball. It is still a step up. So when you discount Division II or Division III and only want to go Division I, you're also missing some really high level ball.
Right.
Do you guys see that in other sports too?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, without question, it exists big time, and it's getting to the point where it exists more and more every. I mean, look at the portal. What do we have? 1,000 people in it, football wise. I mean, before that, I mean, just this. It's craziness, and some will get left out. Gosh, I don't want to lose my train of thought because this mattered. Do you find? With women's sports, Sam, I mean, it feels to me like it is growing quickly. I mean, big in all sports, which is a great thing, and gaining even more traction. I mean, you start to think about it. I mean, 5 years ago, and now the traction, not just from the Caitlin Clarks in basketball, but all around. But what like Nellie Court is doing, what volleyball is doing, the beach volleyball scene, indoor scene. I mean, it's become awesome. And then you go watch them and say, I want no part of sitting in the batter's box against a softball pitcher that throws it like that. I'm not going to touch it, right? So with this and with all the changes, are we headed in a direction that you like? What more do we need to do to enhance NSR? Hopefully we're doing that. But what more do we need to do to enhance, and in specific women's volleyball, but the female side of it, to get more people eyes on them at their events and the rest of it? Or are we headed in the right direction?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked this. Nothing gets me more fired up every day than seeing like a new record broken, right? Like what Unrivaled is doing with women's basketball and just like breaking attendance records. The past 4 years in a row, the NCAA Division I Volleyball National Championship has shattered TV viewership records, shattered attendance records. So just women's sports on a whole are, I think, finally getting what we're due. And then we're also seeing it grow at the high school level. So volleyball for years has been the fastest growing female high school sport. I don't know if it still is. I haven't checked the numbers, to be honest, so don't come for me, fact checkers. But for years it was growing. So I think with that growth, it does make it harder to stand out as a prospect. So having a plan, right, knowing what to do and getting connected to the right coaches, and like we talked about before, not being really narrow-minded, being seen by a lot of coaches and exploring a lot of opportunities if you want to play is important, because the pool of talent is really growing.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, guys, real quick. We were out in front, fortunate to go to USC because our women's sports programs at Southern Cal, just give you an example, were so good then. I'm like, man, I don't know. Everybody should know who they are. Our women's volleyball team's always been good. Heck, our men's volleyball team, Steve Timmons, who Red Sand was one of my very dear friends, was a phenomenal Olympian and a great player and a great guy. But our women's basketball team, Cynthia Cooper, who is WNBA Hall of Famer, Paula and Pam McGee, who we know about, and Cheryl Miller. So we'd go into the gym and play pickup basketball, which is like my favorite sport. And they'd, Sean, you got Cheryl Miller. I'm like, oh hell no. You guys she'd be throwing elbows in a rib cage. I'm like, Cheryl, and she was a broadcast major too, so we saw each other often. And what a great player. And I love to see it. It's amazing. That's in the 80s, and here we are still talking about the growth. At that point in time, I thought, if you guys aren't watching Cheryl Miller and Cynthia Cooper play college hoops, or you're not watching our women's volleyball team, you're missing out. We used to go to more women's games than men's games then. So
Yeah.
the transformation continues to take place. But it feels to me, Sam, like you think it's headed in the right direction, regardless of all the chaos that's going on with all the college transfer portal and NIL.
Yeah, I think it's heading in the right direction. I am of the mindset, the more the merrier. I think being an athlete gives you so many skills for life, like of course in your career, but in all of your relationships, right? Mother, sister, friend, daughter, on and on. So I think the more the merrier, right? The more people that get these benefits from high level sports, the better.
Well, it's just the more that these young ladies know that there are avenues for them to compete and wear a name across their chest and be proud of the institution that they're playing for and get that education, if not all paid for, at least some of it paid for by their athletic ability. That's huge, and we have the ability to impress that on more and more athletes every year because we see more and more athletes at these events, the 80 court venues and that sort of thing we're attending. Sam, I don't know if you remember 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, Nebraska played somebody, it may have been Arkansas or Penn State or somebody in an outdoor venue in their football stadium. And it was crazy, that crowd that was there. And
they sold it out. Whole football
stadium. That was
incredible, and it was I remember it well. Yes, it was unbelievable.
It wasn't just them too. There's been some other programs following suit and doing the same over the years. Not as large as Nebraska, but there's still a couple of programs that have had outdoor stadium events and packed the stadium. So it's exciting to see the growth.
All right, Sam, you're given as NSR, and it's cover both because, and we'll Larry, if you have something to go, we'll let you go. We've used up a lot of your time, so thank you very much. You're sitting in a gym talking to 1,000 people, or 10,000. You're at that sold out Nebraska stadium, and they're all high school kids and their parents. What's the advice you give them now? What would be the biggest piece of advice? That they're all aspiring student athletes. Heck, we don't use that term enough anymore, student athletes, but student athletes. Is there advice moving forward? You as a college coach and you as our national recruiter at NSR, kind of put them together and tell me, and maybe they're in direct proportion. What would you tell these kids that are in the 9th grade trying to go to where you've been?
Okay. As national volleyball director, the first thing I say, if I had to choose one single piece of advice to give anyone of any sport about recruiting, it is that you need to be very consistent. You can't do one day of recruiting work a month and expect to get recruited. It is a measure of a lot of small actions over a long time, oftentimes over years. It's not instant gratification. It is just little actions carried out very consistently.
Sam?
I know you guys know your sports. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's small deposits all the time. And even though it's not for women, I was watching golf, I mean, which I do all the time. I watch, I was watching Nelly Korda winning 3 rounds and watching Justin Rose and in mid 40s and will win in a tournament where he broke the course record. But they were even talking about he's training harder now than he ever has to keep up with a younger group, and he's playing better than them. And it's those deposits. I know it was a case in my career, and if I didn't put him in, I didn't reap the rewards. Larry, I'm sure it's the same with you. And we all think the instant gratification works, but billionaires don't usually get to be billionaires without making the small deposits that allow them to have that. It usually doesn't happen overnight unless you're a little bit lucky, but it's a grind. And Sam, with you and Larry, you've been in it for a long time. I would imagine those that make the small deposit, when they're a freshman, they don't quite get it. By the time they're a senior, they get it, and they look back and they'll probably go on and tell somebody, it was the little things I did all the time. I tell quarterbacks this all the time when I'm training them. Make the boring play all the time. The spectacular comes by doing the little, setting the foundation, but you can't play if you can't make the boring, simple things, the routine play all the time. I would imagine, Sam, that's no different in volleyball.
Yeah, right. And we understand it so easily as athletes, parents, coaches. Like, I want to get better at volleyball. You didn't become the volleyball player you are now without going to practice consistently over years. We understand it there, but we lose sight of it in recruiting, right? You don't get recruited without taking little tasks every week for years. So
you still love this, don't you? You love doing this, don't you, Sam? This is you. Yeah, I can tell by your energy just watching you, whether it's on social media, Facebook, but getting to talk to you in person. This is something you still love to do, kind of like you tell the players to have a passion for playing.
Yeah, I mean, volleyball shaped my entire life to this day. Everywhere I've gone, every opportunity I've had, my closest friendships, it's all through volleyball. So I want to, I get excited helping young people follow that same path, right? I started playing volleyball at 14, was fortunate enough to get recruited, fortunate enough to coach, and it's shaped everything. And getting recruited was a huge piece of that. My career would have just ended at 18 if I didn't. So I am excited and passionate. So thanks for noticing that.
And so is Larry. You know what's crazy about that? I think we all would echo the sentiment. The football, the college sport, my buddy from high school playing sports as long as I could has given me everything in my life. It's directed me towards family. My parents got closer, stayed close with them. My best friends in the world were in the grind with you or watching you grind it out and being there when you were struggling. So phenomenal message, folks. Please, if you're looking for somebody aside from these two, I mean, NSR obviously is somebody who helps and cares about your kids, but with Sam is again, longtime coach, coached great players, longtime player, and is now the national volleyball director. Great leader, a master's degree. You got it. You want it. She's got it, and she knows how to direct. I don't think she can get your master's degree for you, but she can direct you on how to do it. Sam, you've been phenomenal, and Larry is the executive director of NSR, and Sam's our national volleyball director, and so good at it. And it's been great to have you on, and I hope these kids and parents are listening to this, because when they do, it just gives them another step in the right direction. You do a phenomenal job for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love to talk to people out there. So if they have questions, they can feel free to reach out and find me.
Social media, where they find you, Sam?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Coach Sam Shomo, and pretty responsive in the DM. So if you have a question, you can find me there.
And when she says pretty responsive, that means you'll blink and she'll be back to you, because she continues to dominate and make a difference with these kids and those families. Sam, thank you very much. Larry, great stuff. This is Recruiting Unfiltered. We'll be back to do it again next week. We got an extra bonus time with Sam today, and we appreciate you, Sam. Thanks for taking the time for us.
Yes, Sam, thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, we sure did. And we'll have you back again so you can teach us more, because we need it. We'll see you guys next time on Recruiting Unfiltered. For Sam and Larry, I'm Sean. We'll see you next time. And for our great tech guy, who is the best in the business, we appreciate you, Brett, as always. Thanks for making us look halfway decent and sound even better. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week.